Good evening, everyone. I'm Jake.
And I'm Z, and
Welcome back to Hungry Talks.
Any food for thought today, Jake?
Not really. I just keep thinking I might have really bothered Loula.
What? What did you do?
She asked me to do a dance for Hungry Talks TikTok, and I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Why didn't you just tell her that?
Well, I promised I would.
Okay, so what happened?
Dancing isn't really my thing, so when she asked me again, I told her I had more important stuff to do.
Wait, you didn't actually say it like that, did you?
Yeah.
Jake, it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
I know, I didn't mean for it to come out that way.
Well, Lola's just doing her job, and you probably made her feel unappreciated.
I'm really sorry, Loula.
Speaking of how you say it, Lola said she forgave you if you do a tongue twister right now 3 times and perfectly.
6 swift shouts south swiftly, 6 swift shouts south swiftly, 6 swift ships south swiftly.
Wow. Good try, Jake. Lola didn't actually say that though. I was just messing with you.
Damn, so you really got me.
See, words are powerful. It's crazy how much impact the way we craft our messages can have in conversations, text, pretty much everything.
And that's exactly what we're diving into today. How to craft the perfect message.
Perfect for you, Jake. As they say, the worst distance between 2 people is misunderstanding. Whether you're talking to someone, pitching an idea, or creating campaigns, getting your message right is key.
And today we've got 2 experts to help us out. Dr. David Micallef, a seasoned PR pro who's all about turning complex data into clear, impactful communication.
And Shannon Crowe, a master storyteller who really knows how to make words resonate.
I'm really looking forward to learning from them.
Me too. So without further ado,
let's get started.
This week's quick brief is about
road safety.
Whoa, Jake, what's with the outfit?
Road safety is no joke, Z. Do you know how many lives are lost on the road each year? 1,194. This is serious business.
That's shocking, and these aren't just numbers. These are real people. Someone's child, mother, father, sister, brother, or friend.
The campaign is titled, Are We Now Too Impatient to Be Intelligent?
Exactly, and the goal is simple. Reduce accidents and fatalities by reminding drivers that speeding isn't smart.
Right, don't speed, life's too precious to risk it. And guess what? Speeding doesn't even get you to your destination much faster.
The target audience for this campaign is broad. Drivers aged 18 to 45, especially parents doing school drop-offs and pickups.
Your task is to create a billboard or poster that grabs attention in high traffic areas. Think highways and busy urban spots.
For a campaign like this, consider using real-life stories and solid statistics to create a message that really sticks.
And here's a tip. Check out our first episode with John Thompson, an expert in marketing communications and social behaviour change, for insights into what makes a road safety campaign truly effective.
And as always, for all the nitty-gritty details, head to our socials.
And don't forget to submit your quick brief to us at quickbriefs@hungrytalks.com.au.
All right, it's time for the entree.
Joining us in the studio are our guests, David and Shannon.
David is a senior lecturer and an expert in public relations. He also is a foster parent of a very cute trainee guide dog called Gertie. She sadly had prior engagements today and couldn't make it.
Shannon is a senior lecturer at RMIT and an absolute wizard with words. Since today's episode is all about crafting the perfect message, we're going to warm up our guest brain with a fun game called Guess the Tagline.
And here's how it works. We'll give David and Shannon 3 brands, each with 3 possible taglines. And their job is to guess which one is the real tagline.
Easy. All right, let's dive in. The first brand is NAB.
And the choices are A, more than money, B, banking made simple, and C, money, money, money.
Beep. More than money.
More than money?
More than money is correct.
What do you think?
And how do you feel about
And
bank
that's
branding?
correct.
In
More than
general,
money.
that is correct. That is correct. Great. And I want to know, more generally, how do you feel about the branding and the lines that banks use for their taglines?
Oh, I guess they've got to work especially hard because banks can quite easily be seen as big evil corporations at times like these. So I think, a line like more than money is quite smart in that it is just these three very simple words, and then, the NAB have a history of bringing it to life in really like ways that resonate with pop culture. So I think, they've been smart in trying to position themselves as a bank of the people despite being one of the big four.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
It's interesting with the taglines that you make sure that they work as well with the logos. Not NAB, but if you look at ANZ, I always find the ANZ one funny because they've got a logo which I know it would have been pitched as it looks like a person who's being kind of surrounded and being helped. But when I look at it, it actually seems like a small guy being swallowed up by a big fat banker. If you look at the logo now, that's all you will see.
Yeah, definitely. Just depends on your personal experience with
That's
them,
true.
doesn't it? How you see the logo. Yeah. All right. So.
Next up, we've got Billabong.
And the options are A, board shorts are better than regular shorts. B, life's better in board shorts. Or C, explore beyond the shore.
See.
What about Shannon? What do you think?
Not C.
Not C. Maybe B then. I just dismissed the first two because they're ridiculous. What is B?
Life's better in board shorts is correct.
Yeah, right.
That's the one. Yeah.
So I don't think they're doing that great of a job then. Because Shannon's got the NAB right away.
I've worked on NAB before. Competitive advantage.
All right, and so last one is Vegemite.
The options are A, a taste of home, B, a little goes a long way, and C, tastes like Australia.
C.
I would have said B.
The correct answer is C. Tastes like Australia.
Yeah, I've worked on Vegemite too. Sorry, David.
Was that their tagline while you were?
Yeah.
That was the one they were using.
Yeah, that's right. So I worked at Tinkerbell for a while, and it was just after they did a Vegemite campaign where they put that tagline out on billboards around Australia, but in languages of the demographic of those suburbs. So because Australia tastes a lot of different ways these days and speaks a lot of different languages. So it was a really beautiful way to modernise that tagline.
Yeah. All right. So. That was fun. Now, before we dive deep with our guest David, let's look at a video created by Ella Watkins, an influencer who worked on an Australian government youth vaping information campaign. David recently discussed this in a research seminar, so it'll be great to get his thoughts on it. Let's check it out.
Hey, pass the vape. You can't bring that in here.
Oh, don't tell me you're worried about the health risk.
No, I'm worried about Darth Vapor.
She's not real, Ella.
Who is Darth Vapor? Darth Vapor?
I'm as real as the health risks associated with vaping.
We weren't vaping, we promise.
Vape on this.
Oh! Don't inhale it, Ella. It's toxic.
Too late. She's addicted. Watermelon bubblegum doesn't taste so sweet in the long run, does it? You a fan of the planet?
I always recycle.
She does.
And yet vapes cannot be recycled and may never break down.
I didn't realize.
Fake earthing!
That's so lame.
They've become the very thing I seek to destroy.
Recycle this! This was for your mom! And my mom! I mean, Mother Nature! You can't outrun me with your compromised run function!
I only vaping. Social situation.
That's plenty!
You wouldn't understand, Darth Vapor.
Oh, but I do.
You look awful.
Beneath every Darth Vapor mask is an X-Vapor.
What made you finally decide to quit?
The idea of being battered by the hands of Blueberry Sour Raspberry Sun.
So we're excited to have Dr. David Micallef with us today, a senior lecturer and program manager for public relations at RMIT. Public relations is one of those fields that where everyone seems to have their own take on what it is. So with over 20 years of experience in communication, how would you describe PR in your own words?
So public relations is really about working with an organisation or a person and looking at their relationships with the people around them and the organisations around them. So I really find PR tends to be a good mediator, because you kind of need to understand kind of what the sentiment is in the community, what's going on around an organisation, and be able to work with your organisation to be that middleman for communication, and it's helping kind of have that communication go through ideally both ways. A lot of times it's one way, but it's about helping an organisation translate what they want to say to the people that they want to say it. So it can be a really diverse field. Because sometimes you might be working with, going to the, communicating to the public. Sometimes you're working with other stakeholders or even internally into the same organisation as well.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, and we just watched a video about curbing vaping in young people, and as vaping does continue to rise in popularity, do you think that things like that video and anti-vaping campaigns are doing a good job to curb that?
I've been doing. I love that video, and I love Ella Watkins. If you've seen some of her content, I think the video is a really good perspective on how you get a message out to an audience in their language. So what I really love about that piece of content is, if you look at the messages that would have come out from the government around that, they would have been pretty dry, pretty government messages. Vaping is unhealthy. It's not good for the environment. It's not good in the long term. But getting young people to listen to those messages is difficult, and getting them to think about the impacts in a language that's theirs is difficult. So having and content creators and influencers have become a really good conduit for communication, and working with someone and having someone like Ella, and there was I think about 10 influencers in that campaign that worked with the government, getting them to translate what would be dry government messages into something that the audience can engage with is an important way of getting that communication out.
Definitely. When I watched the video, I definitely couldn't tell it's for like a campaign. So when it comes to crafting like a PR strategy, what do you see as like the key ingredients to a successful PR strategy?
In terms of a PR strategy, I think there's a few elements. One is really understanding your organisation. And really understanding what they're wanting to achieve. The second part of is your audience, and really understanding what it is that they want and what motivates them, and your role as a PR practitioner and as a communicator in general, whether you are using advertising, social media, any forms of communication, is about how do you make sure that the message that you're sending is right for that audience, and it's meeting the needs of your organisation, but also your audience, and it's being delivered in a way that's actually going to engage them.
Absolutely. All time, if you had to say all time, most effective, your favourite PR campaign of all time, what would you say is that one?
I'll go to ones that I've worked on. Probably the best one that I have worked on, or my favourite one. I spent a period where I was working on a lot of parenting campaigns. There's a lot happening and a lot of funding from government around parenting, and making sure that parents young people or kids are being given the best start in life. And we did this campaign for the Tasmanian government, where they wanted to really get that conversation started in the community around how important parenting is. And we pitched for a PR campaign, the company that I was working for, and we pitched this campaign idea about creating Tasmania's biggest job, and having this whole pre-campaign about talking with the community through media around, what do they think Tasmania's biggest job is? What is the most important job in the state? With a reveal to it that it is parenting, and which would be the launch of this campaign, this information around the importance of the early years and the importance of parenting. And it was such a wonderful campaign, not just because of both the synergy of the messages, but also the community and the stakeholder support around it. And that's where I think PR really comes into its power. I remember going to Hobart and having these discussions with the company that ran the buses and talking to them about the importance of this campaign, because it's not for profit and government had no money for advertising. So we're talking to stakeholders like the bus company around the importance of this campaign, and IGA and so forth, and they got on board with the campaign, gave us free advertising space. So we had things on buses that were getting the message out there as well, and it was a really nice coming together of community and a lot of community support to actually make this campaign happen.
And how do you determine the core message for a PR campaign?
So there's a couple of elements in terms of messaging. I always like to say when I'm developing a PR strategy, it is about keeping it simple. Keeping it simple, but also then having the detail behind it. So I like to keep it to the top line 3 messages. What is it that you're wanting to say? Why are you saying it? So the supporting messages to why people should do something, and then the action. What do you want people to do with it? But then under that is having the information, because I think the worst thing in any type of communication campaign, and especially when you are using spokespeople or you're using different talent, is that they're repeating the same line and the same script all the time. So I always tell organisations that I'm working with, a key message is a guide. How you then get that message out there is dependent on one, you as a communicator, but also the audience that you're talking to and the medium that you're talking to them on. So making sure that you're still delivering that overarching message, but you don't have to say those words exactly the same.
To be able to change it as it goes to, because I guess that'd be true, especially in that TikTok video about the anti-vaping campaign. And would you say that that's almost going to become the future of? Is that how it's looking for some things? Is that's going to take off as a medium, as a way to get PR messages to people?
Definitely, and I see that with our students in the public relations program. So where 15, 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, when students were going out into the field in PR, a lot of their work was around talking to media. They'd be doing media lists, doing media events, and doing press events, sending out media releases, doing media calls, which is how when I started my career, that was what I'd spend my time doing. Now, when I talk to students about what they're doing when they're first leaving the degree and going into industry, influencers and content creators is where it's at. They're engaging with content creators. They're using them as mediums to get their message out, because content creators, and it's true for advertising as well as public relations, they've become a really strong medium because they spend a lot of effort building a community that they talk to and who trust them as well. And so I think that's the power of using, say, someone like Ella. She has a community there that trusts her. There was another content creator, Jack Buzzer, who's a gaming content creator, and I spoke to him yesterday because I did a research interview with him, and he spoke about how he is still getting members of his community. He had no idea how many people in his community actually vaped. He didn't think it was much, but when he did the campaign, he realised how many people in his community, which are primarily under 18s, how many of them vaped, but he's now still getting, even though the campaign's finished, he's getting people from his community still saying to him, I'm still not vaping, and just reminding him that they've got his message.
They've quit, reminding him,
With TikTok, it's a social media that variety plays such a big part. We often hear phrases like, there's no such thing as bad publicity, or any publicity is good publicity. So what are your take on those things?
I find those, I hear those sayings all the time, and I find them, they're a bit antiquated. And they're antiquated in the sense that I think they were true to some degree at a time when media was much more focused on traditional media, where a piece of publicity was a daily paper or something on the news, where at the end of the day people maybe just remember the brand or the organisation and that's it. With digital media, that has changed a fair bit,
definitely.
because bad news and bad publicity sticks around for a long time, and not only sticks around, but can develop a life of it on its own. And larger organisations can potentially deal with a lot of the hate that comes online, but smaller organisations can be bankrupted by a single piece of bad publicity.
Yeah. Speaking of like crisis communication, what do you think are some of the most common mistakes organizations do with PR?
The biggest mistake, not preparing. For any organisation, especially in the environment that we are now, if you're not putting together some sort of crisis communication plan or a risk plan, and having some sort of idea of what you're going to do when something goes wrong, if and when something goes wrong, and more likely when. In this day and age, that's one of the biggest mistakes. And I know when I've previously worked, and I did a lot of work in crisis, but I remember my boss used to have a philosophy that she would not take clients when they are in the midst of a crisis. So she would not take on a client who just called up out of the blue and said, "We've just had something blow up, come and help us." She would rather work with organisations where they actually did some work beforehand, before crisis hit, to actually prepare themselves for that eventuality, because it's very hard to go in, and it takes a particular type of PR person to go in and deal with the crap when it's happened as well.
Yeah, all right. Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights, David. Now we're going to take a look at Shannon's most recent work.
It's called Makeup, Our Makeup, and here's the trailer.
Representation starts in every room.
Our Makeup is a YouTube series that explores self-expression, identity, makeup, and life. Throughout the series, I yarn to three of my sisters killing it in their creative fields. Heartbreak High's very own Sherry Lee Watson.
Doing my little, 2016 Kim K makeup look.
One of Australia's hottest music stars, Becca Hatch.
In a way, that's Black Joy.
And superstar model and ranger, Cindy Rostron.
Young girls like me, do it. Other girls can do it,
Discover the makeup of these incredible women. Watch Our Makeup, only on YouTube.
Joining us on the couch now is Shannon Crowe, copywriting genius and RMIT advertising lecturer. Shannon, what do you think are the key elements that make a piece of copy really stand out?
I think there's a few things. I think you have to understand your brand's tone of voice, and make sure that tone of voice is really embedded in human qualities. I think you have to understand the audience you're speaking to, and remember that they're humans as well, and that they're likely not idiots. So give them a little bit of respect. And then I think a big part of copywriting is just trimming the fat and just saying what you need to say in the most compelling and clear way possible. I think, it's very easy to kind of overwrite, but there's a quote that's often misattributed to Mark Twain, actually by Blaise Pascal, and he said, "I would write a shorter letter if I had the time." And that is to say that it's very easy just to overwrite. But good copywriting is succinct.
Keeping it succinct. And when you said you've got to keep cutting it down until you get to your perfect amount, how much would you usually start with when it comes to getting to the final product? How much is there at the most that you've got to work through?
It depends what you're doing. I guess if you're writing a line for a billboard, you're aiming for 10 words most. And so, if you're writing a tagline, then it's probably 3 to 5 words. But whatever it is you're writing for, the best approach is always to say it straight And then the copywriting bit is that you then say it great. But I think it's very easy as well just to dive into trying to say it great, and you tie yourself up in circles and end up, you know, with wordplay and puns, and then end up not saying anything. But yeah, saying it straight, make sure that you're kind of keeping to the strategy and to the message, and then adding your craft on top of that.
You know, balancing strategy and creativity is always tricky. Like, how do you navigate them when developing ad campaigns?
Yeah, I think, I'm not sure if it is so much as a balance as they just both have to exist together. It's this symbiotic relationship when you're talking about advertising and professional communications, because, you know, we're not artists, we're not poets. Luckily, we're also not, you know, struggling to pay the bills as a result. But I think, you know, every brief that you get is grounded in strategy, and if you don't believe that strategy to be true, you've got to push back on that brief before you even start thinking about what the creative idea is. But as soon as that strategy does feel like it resonates with you, it's then the creative's job to work out how to link that strategy into like real kind of human insights. And again, until you've got those kind of like little nuggets of truth, all you're doing is like creating fluff unless you've got those things. So,
what do you do when you're trying to find those little nuggets of truth about a brand? What does that involve sometimes?
It's hard. It's a very hard thing to teach as well.
Yeah,
there's no like direct methodology, but I think it's about sitting with the brief and like putting it all into your brain, making sure you do have a good understanding of the product and the audience and the problem that you're trying to solve. Once you understand those things, you just got to like take a step back, and there's a lot of trust and magic involved. Like you've got to trust that once the data points are in your brain, your subconscious is doing its thing, and that there is this kind of magic in creativity where like these little sparks happen and your synapses are connecting one thing that doesn't seem to be connected to another, and then it's up to you to recognize when those little like moments of genius happen and pluck them out of your brain and put them down on paper before you like fall asleep or drink too many beers or whatever.
Absolutely,
And out of all the work you've worked on, is there any messages or piece of copy that particularly stuck with you personally?
I think that over time I've kind of carved myself a bit of a niche in the behaviour change space, and so I work at YouTube at the moment, but prior to that I was creative director on an account called Our Watch, and they're an NGO who are in the space of like gendered violence and, you know, protecting women and their children mostly. And so there are a lot of campaigns about trying to educate the public about how to kind of shift into a more equal, less violent space, which is super tricky because there's a lot of people in the general population who still, you know, don't believe the stats around gendered violence, or don't believe that, you know, instances of everyday inequality do ladder up to violence and murder down the line. So I think those messages were always really challenging to craft in the right way, but always rewarding when it did feel like we struck upon something gold.
And you were saying that sometimes a brief, you just won't connect with a brief at all, and when the strategy just doesn't make sense to you. Is there any pushing through that at all, or is there like a reset that you have to hit when that pops up?
I think that it's not so much that the strategy didn't align with me, it was just that the strategy seemed really lazy. So I think, exactly.
They haven't digged more?
Exactly. I think, if the strategy presents something to me that's really obvious, then the ideas we're going to come up with off the back of that are going to be really obvious things as well. But I think the ideas that resonate most are things that feel there's a level of familiarity to the audience, but then, so they're kind of like leaning in because they feel engaged with whatever it is you're talking about. But as they're leaning in, you tell them something slightly new, or you talk to them in a slightly different way. And so I think that good strategies will always kind of find a problem and then ask why it's a problem, and then ask why of that and why of that and why of that, until you get like 5 layers of why down.
And I remember in the entree you said that you'd worked at Vegemite in the past. What was it like? What was it like at Vegemite? Was it?
Well, I worked at Think-A-Bell advertising.
Doing Vegemite? Did you go in and visit the Vegemite?
No, I didn't. But it was exciting to have such a huge kind of, you know, Australian like love brand, I guess, in the building, because there is so much heritage. And how do you kind of keep that alive while also bringing the brand into a modern space? And that example I spoke to is a good kind of example of that.
I'm curious, when you're coming out with copy, do you usually know if it's good or great or like bad? How do you know if it's going to be, how do you know if it turns out?
I think identifying a good idea, because I guess copywriting, you know, is in the name, it's writing copy, but also the first part of being a copywriter is coming up with a big creative idea. And so recognizing whether an idea is good is hard, especially when you first start in the industry and there's like a lot of nerves and like, you know, you're just keen to solve a brief and to prove yourself. But it is one of the skills that you learn, and you have to learn quickly. And I think once you've got that, you can, like, again, there's some magic that you can feel, but then you can also just like pressure test it against the brief, and you know, it aligns with the business objectives and it aligns with the strategy. But then when you get to the actual words, like I'm such a word nerd, I used to write essays for uni, and then I'd get the like, this is before Siri as well, the voice on my computer to read the essay back to me, so I could just close my eyes and listen to the rhythm of the sentences.
No, to get it perfect.
Yeah.
I think I'd love to know, Shannon, is how did you first get into your love of words and everything like that? Was there one moment that started that all for you?
Yeah, when I finished high school, I studied graphic design and then realised I was bad at it. And then tried again, like I moved to Melbourne and came and applied for the communication design course here at RMIT, and advertising was a backup, but I was still bad at design, so I didn't get into comm design and ended up in advertising. And the whole time was like, I'm an art director, I'm an art director, I'm an art director. And then graduated, got my first job as an art director and had a copywriter partner, and I found myself always like getting a bit eye twitchy about the way that he wrote things, while at the same time playing words with friends on my phone, or, you know, Scrabble with my housemates, or like I had a blog about internet dating. So there were all of these like leisure activities that were to do with words. And then so the next job offer I got was just for like agnostic creative, and so took that role, and in that role kind of like directed myself more towards copywriting, and was finally at peace with my skills and how to apply them professionally. Found my calling.
Favourite place.
Yeah.
That's great. All right, so thank you, Shannon, for coming on and sharing everything with us. Next up, we're going to have a sneak peek at Loula's kitchen, where she'll be chatting and making apple crumble with her dad, Scott Reinke, who's had an incredible journey in the marketing world.
And to catch the full interview, head to our YouTube channel at Hungry Talks to hear more from Scott and see how the apple crumble turned out.
Today I have a special guest.
Oh, hi.
My dad. Today we're going to be cooking a
apple crumble.
So, tell us, Scott, how did you get into the career you're in now?
Okay, well my career's got two parts. I managed to get to be working in top 50 companies, head of marketing for 4 of them in my career, without a marketing degree. I run my own branded merchandise company, so we have several parts to it. Branded merchandise, basically anything with a company logo on. We have 35,000 products on our website. So we do that for government clients and corporates and small little companies as well. Generally we look after the top end. So
We have to taste test. So in this world of advertising and marketing, do you think that promotional apparel and merchandise is important still in this day and age?
That's an insightful question. Too many people don't know about or think about promotional products, and it can be to their detriment. It is one of the most cost-effective things that can be done.
So what is some advice that you would have for students like me studying advertising?
Fun industry, hard industry, particularly if you're an agency. In doing your work, KISS principle.
Sorry?
KISS principle.
I don't know what that is.
Keep it simple, stupid. Well, the other thing that I think makes a substantial difference is an integrated campaign.
What would you say is your favourite source of media? Don't lie.
TikToks.
TikToks.
And part of the reason with the TikTok is I've also got another company which is POM, Peace of Mind, period underwear. And of course the target market for that is reasonably young. So we're working with influencers and we're concentrating on daily posts.
We pop our apples and our lovely juices.
Nice.
Nice. We always use each other's sandwiches.
That's what I was going to say.
It's crazy. We finish each other's
Sandwiches.
That's what I was gonna say.
What was the other question you were asking me before during the ad break? I love ad break.
Same. When it comes up to an ad break, Dad always used to say, watch them, rate them, critique them. You know, there's
What's
so
the
many
key message?
There's so many bad ones
What's
out
the
there.
message outtake? What's the brand? What's good? What's not? How one thing change could have made such a
Such a
difference.
difference. All we got to do is pop
Pop
it in the oven.
Talk. Ask questions. Learn from those who are in it, have been in it, and that's where I think Hungry Talks can make a big difference.
It's been a pleasure having you.
Oh no, it's been my pleasure. As always.
It's been my pleasure.
No.
It's honestly, it's been my
No,
pleasure.
seriously.
Welcome to Off to the Market, where we take a break from providing the insight. This week we're delving into the Ray Gun Olympics controversy. For those who haven't seen it, Rachel Gunn, also known as Ray Gun, represented Australia in the Women's Olympic breaking. Her breakdancing routine featured some questionable moves and have been heavily criticized in media around the world. But don't worry, we're not here to beat a dead horse. Today, our aim is to take a look at the public perception of the controversy and speculate on the best course of action for Rachel Gunn going forward. David, if you were advising Rachel right now, what would be your advice?
If I was advising her right now and seeing some of the statements that she's put out recently, I'd be telling her, excuse the pun, stick to your guns. Because I think one of the things that she's doing really well right now is that tackling of misinformation is a good one, and the tackling the bullying and the bullying and the hate that's come online, I think, has been a good move because it's something that people understand and people can really relate to. I think at the start of when this issue all happened, I think there were some errors that her and whoever was advising her made. One was, keeping silent in the first bit, which tends to be the default for people in a social media storm of just kind of hiding and it will all go away. It doesn't go away. Not something that big. And there was also some really confusing messages that were coming out, which I think fueled a lot of the misinformation that's now going on.
Right. Yeah. Well, I can imagine it would be really hard for her, for anyone in that kind of situation. So, I understand why one might feel just not want to react to it at all. But what did you think of the performance?
It was crap.
Yeah.
I'm no expert on breakdancing, but I think I've seen when I've been travelling out, you sometimes have seen breakdancing on the streets and so forth, and there was a disconnect between what I saw in that performance and what I've seen previously in media around breakdancing. So it was just, to me, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was a joke routine, and there was some we're all going to be told we're on Australia's Funniest Home Videos or something. Yeah.
Shannon, what did you think of the performance?
Yeah, I wasn't really tuning into the Olympics. I've just seen snippets of the performance in the social media storm that followed, but I thought it made a mockery of the sport, and I thought it made a bit of a mockery of our country too, and kind of harked back to 1980s larrikinism and Crocodile Dundee days, which just reinforces this stereotype that we have down under, which we're trying so hard to shake. But yeah, we're right back in it now on the world stage.
I think the clips you see on social media it's definitely the least flattering part of the performance, but it was a bit dorky. We asked the public what they think of the ray gun situation, and here's what they had to say.
So, what did you think of Ray Gun's performance?
Yeah, it was okay, yep. I didn't understand the kangaroo bit, but I could, being Australian, she wanted to do it.
It was fine. At the end of the day, once you qualify, it's up to you to perform in however manner you want. I think she was taking it seriously, so that's all you can really ask for.
I felt like it was pretty embarrassing. I feel like as a nation that's like known to be quite active, like you look at the amount of athletes we sent, it seems unbelievable that that was our best breakdancer.
Whether it was at sufficient standard or not doesn't really matter, because she went through all the right process and qualified.
How did she get to the world stage?
Wow, there's a lot of talk, isn't there, hey?
But I'm pretty certain that she like scammed, like created some like false tournament or something like that.
As far as I'm aware, there was a qualifying process in Australia and she won that qualifying tournament.
Paid off a bunch of people and just scammed the Olympics and the Australian government and all that to like fund her trip to Paris.
What did you think about the backlash?
Oh, it's a bit mean. She was doing her best. Well, she tried, I guess.
I think it was pretty justified. If all in all, it probably deserves more in terms of the scam. I feel like she got off pretty lightly with everyone saying, "Oh, she's so bad. Haha, Australians are terrible at breakdancing."
In any competition that's in the public, like, you're going to receive criticism for what you do. So I think maybe it's a little bit over the top.
She should probably be held accountable in a legal court.
Okay, yeah, cool.
Shannon, what did you think about the backlash and how she responded to it?
Yeah, I guess we all know that the internet can just turn into a giant pylon within seconds, which is definitely what happened here. On one side of the coin. The other side is that she's like being seen as this national hero very quickly, and so I think that every time she kind of responds to the backlash, there's also the knowledge that as many, if not more people, love her for what she did, and that she is going to go down in history as the kangaroo breakdancing woman from the Olympics. So I don't know, like I don't feel particularly sorry for her. I think she's also, like, she's a very smart woman. She's got a PhD in this area. She knows the history of breakdancing. She knows, that it started as a subculture and act of resistance in like Black and Latino communities, and I think that she would also be aware that she did make a bit of a mockery of the sport. So I am yet to see any like humility, I guess, in that kind of area. It's more just about protecting her own reputation at the moment, which rubs me up the wrong way, personally.
Right. That's really interesting. David, do you have anything to say on that? The backlash, how she responded?
I probably need to agree with you there, Shannon. I think the lack of humility there, I think, is resounding there. I think I'd be very hard pressed to see that someone at that level, in terms of their knowledge of breakdancing, wouldn't see that it was a mockery of the sport, and there were points where I would have liked to have seen her come out with I realise it was bad, but it seems like from her most recent messages that she still thinks that she did her best, which I find amazing.
That's really interesting that that you both felt that. I've read a lot of that online, and I think there's I think there's a pretty strong case that maybe she shouldn't have been out there at the Olympics, but honestly, there's a lot out there. It's a pretty deep controversy if you go looking. David, when a brand faces this kind of heat, what's the first thing a PR team should do?
The first thing is really trying to own the message. You cannot control everything online, as you can see. You can never deal, and you shouldn't be dealing with everything that every crazy says online. But one of the things that you should be doing is owning the information going out through your channels and making sure that you are correcting any misinformation that's happening. One of the really startling things that this example shows is how quickly misinformation can spread. I talk to people about this, and you saw in the clip as well, who will believe Black and Blue, that she created her own qualifiers to put herself in the Olympic, and that her husband was a judge who brought her in, and they just totally believe that. So I think correcting that misinformation and owning some part of the information, and the biggest thing is really to read the room and knowing where public sentiment is and how to respond to that. And if you've done something wrong, apologise. Don't listen to the lawyers who will say, no, never apologise, because that's admitting fault. You can face a much worse fate from the public than you will do financially.
Right. In light of the allegations, Gunn put out this statement.
Hi everyone, Ray Gunn here. I just want to start by thanking all the people who have supported me. While I went out there and I had fun, I did take it very seriously. I worked my butt off preparing for the Olympics, and I gave my all, truly. In regards to the allegations and misinformation floating around, I'd like to ask everyone to please refer to the recent statement made by the AOC. Bit of a fun fact for you. There are actually no points in breaking. If you want to see how the judges thought I compared to my opponents, you can actually see the comparison percentages across the 5 criteria on Olympics.com. I'd really like to ask the press to please stop harassing my family.
Some audiences were critical of this statement, saying that it comes off as insincere. How do you craft a response that addresses the issue without making things worse? David?
I think it's about being honest and really about, as I said before, reading the room, but also letting your honest, like if she truly believed that was her best, owning it and saying that, and showing how much she prepared. The other thing that I'd be doing if I was advising Ray Gunn is really looking at those supporters that she may have out there in the breaking communities who can back her up, because there's obviously some lack of credibility there with the audience. But if you see a lot of the comments that are coming out, it's really around, one, making a mockery of Australia, but two, making a mockery of the breaking community. And one of the things I would be doing if I was Ray Gunn, and she's got a PhD in breaking, which you'd assume she has some good connections within the breaking community. I'd be getting them to come out in support of her as well, because if people seem to be all fired up because she's made a mockery of the community, let that community speak rather than others doing it for them.
Yeah, here's some more from the breaking community, what they feel about the situation. Shannon, do you have anything to add on that one?
Well, I mean, their silence is deafening, isn't it?
Yes.
There's a reason she's not going to them.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, that video, there were just a lot of victim buzzwords in there, and it just felt like a little kid who's been caught with their hand in the cookie jar.
Right.
I thought as well that it was funny that, where she filmed it, like she was filming it in this little back alley. So there's like semiotics of being, I'm a break dancer, I'm from the streets, but also, no, you're just a privileged white woman who got a bit too much attention for the wrong things.
Right. Yeah. How do you feel the message comes across?
Look, I think she's playing on some smart words, and I think the message around the bullying and not hounding her family. It is really playing to really some victim elements there, which I think can work, and to some degree, you do see some of that change in the in people's responses around that.
Okay.
I'm a cynic.
Yeah.
Clearly.
I just want to see her own the hate, and I think one of the things she could be doing, or one way out of this is just to really kind of own the hate. Make your own memes. I want to see her on Saturday Night Live doing the breakdance.
Exactly. Yeah, like own the hate, but admit that she loves the love as well.
Yeah.
During my interviews, it became apparent that not many people had actually seen that statement. So we asked the Hungry Talks audience here. Many of them said that they were aware of the allegations, but hadn't seen her response. Should she be concerned about that?
I think the incident is bigger than she is by now. So,
right.
Yeah, her response feels like a little bit of a drop in the water of the internet, Yeah,
I think it's always important with situations like that, and going back to an organisation that has a crisis. I think the important thing is not making sure that everyone has seen it, but who are the people that are important to your brand and to your organisation and to you, who you want to see it. And because you're never going to reach everyone, you're never going to convince everyone, but from a PR perspective, it's looking at who's actually critical to you and making sure that they're getting the message.
Do you think she's hit that important critical audience, or has she missed it?
Look, to be honest, I don't know, because I don't know who's important to her, or what her motivations are. I think they're still unclear as to kind of what she's, why she went into it in the first place. Knowing that she wasn't the best out there, or what she's wanting to get out of this. If you are a cynic, there's probably some motivations there around the future career.
Yep.
Right. I think you're probably right on that one. If you were advising Ray Gunn right now, what would you have done differently so far?
Look, if I was, in a perfect world, if I was advising Ray Gunn and I had thought she had done this, she had known that she wasn't the best, I would have actually just come out straight out and said, and actually used it as a way to say, I know I'm not the best, but this is what I wanted to do, was highlight that there's actually good people out there who are not getting the funding and the limelight that they need, and I wanted to highlight this as an opportunity to show that there are others out there who should be here. Yeah. That's how I would have framed it. Yeah.
I've read that part of the issue is a lot of the breaking community, or some of the breaking community, were critical of the inclusion of breaking in the Olympics. That's one of the most controversial, deep controversial parts of this. So I wonder, in light of that, if the best option for anyone who came up as a breaking representative at the Olympics would just be not to accept. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to apply. I think a lot of people actually. I think some people may have actually, boycotted.
Yeah, exactly. And there was some talk early on that before, because she hadn't made any public statements, there was talk that this was a statement that she was made, that she did this on purpose, as a bit of a statement, but that didn't follow through. But to me, if you were going to make a statement, the biggest statement would have been to not show up.
Yes.
And not do that.
Quite right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having this chat with me, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
That's all we have time for this week on Off to the Market. Before we go, we'd like to express our hope for a quick end to the harassment of Rachel Gunn. Also, please, if you have any questions or comments for the team here at Hungry Talks, send them to the email shown on screen, and we'll respond to them next time on Off to the Market.
Thanks, James, for that deep dive.
Well, we've really covered a lot today, haven't we?
Absolutely. Today was a solid reminder of just how important it is to choose your words wisely.
Oh, now you're getting it. Speaking of which, Jake, I think you owe someone an apology.
You're right. Loula, I'm sorry that I said I was too busy to dance in your silly little TikTok. I shouldn't have lied. I'm also sorry that I called your TikTok silly. Apple by Charlie XCX is a great song. I just think it's too early for me to start Brat Summer. That was mean.
Well, that's a start. See, how we communicate really does matter.
And the whole ray gun situation really showed us how crucial it is to get your message right, especially when the stakes are high.
Exactly. It's not just what you say, but how you say it. Right, Jake?
I couldn't agree more. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thanks to everyone here in the live studio audience and to those watching from home.
We hope to see you all next week. Until then,
stay curious.